This is Fictional Problems, the podcast where we discuss all things writing, in association with Speculative Fiction Ireland. On today's episode, we talk about the use of nostalgia in storytelling, and whether stagnant, unchanging worlds such as Middle-earth from Lord of the Rings and the Star Trek universe are preferable to worlds that change. Join us. Welcome back to Fictional Problems with myself, Gary J. Martin, and as always, A.R. McNevin.
Yes, indeed.
We're doing more fictional problems? Okay, fine, let's do this.
Yeah, there's a lot of fictional problems to be debated. In fact, there was one particular fictional problem on a YouTube video I was watching, which concerned, basically the premise of the video was the familiarity is preferred by a fan base in these sci-fi or fantasy worlds, like in terms of the stagnation or the lack of progress, throughout the history. So he cited Lord of the Rings as an example, like thousands of years spanning, and yet the technology doesn't really improve or develop past medieval era technology.
Or Game of Thrones, I think it's just 14,000 years since the Andals, and
yes,
that's pretty much Bronze Age to Iron Age. Or that's the look of it.
Yeah, and I guess the individual point, I wish I could shout out and credit with.
We can put it in the description.
Yeah, well, I'll find the video again. But he was describing how this is a preferable state for a fan base, that they like the idea that worlds don't change. The worlds that they read or the worlds that they watch on TV, like Star Trek, he cited as it's technologically advanced, obviously, in Star Trek, but it doesn't advance at the same rate that the real world advances. And he cited an idea that the fact that a battleship captain today couldn't do the job of a battleship captain even 50, 60, 100 years ago. And yet...
As in a sailboat captain.
Even a modern day captain couldn't do the job of a sail captain. And that, like, the difference is hundreds of years.
Oh, yeah, hundreds of years, yeah.
And even in Star Trek, they do span hundreds of years from, say, the original series to Voyager, etc.
Yeah.
And the job doesn't really change in Star Trek for captain of the ship.
I understand.
Again, yeah,
and I'm going to launch into a disagreement in a second.
Yeah, no, that's no problem. I'm not defending this. I'm just saying it was interesting.
Yeah, but I wanted to ask, what is your? You described the guy's taking it, which is great, and I appreciate. Where would you fall on it?
It does. I mean, with the different worlds that he was mentioning, it did make sense to me that he, like, what he was saying was, yeah, there doesn't appear to be a whole lot of advancement.
Sure.
And his point was basically that it would appear that fans would prefer that, because I don't think they want to keep track of all these little new inventions and developments.
Sure.
From era to era of the shows that they're watching or the books that they're reading. They don't want to see, like, the development in Lord of the Rings, like development of cannon technology or or flying vehicles. It just wouldn't. It seems to jar.
Well, okay. So I think that we can kind of break this down into different parts, because you're talking about a establishment of world building. So you're going, this is my world, here it is. And while we've discussed in the past the difficulties in world building, and also the difficulties in people assessing that world building, it is the case that inside all those worlds you've mentioned, there was different changes. The technology remains consistent, but over the course of, say, span of DS9, for instance, how many times as in Bajor went from being a backwater and to being, and the station went from being just a mining operation to being essentially, oh my God, let's call it the Babylon 5 of that universe. Okay. Oh wait, hang on, it was. So, but you need to expand. Then the Dominion War happens, and then Earth's attacked, and then there's this rise of a kind of a proto-nationalist political movement on Earth that to protect the homeland, and then the Kardashians are the Kardashians' government fall, or the fall of the Tal Shiar, or there's elements, or the return of the Klingons to an old way. All these have political shifts that allow for story to be structured around it. That the technology doesn't move on is grand. It's understood.
Yeah,
like they may have introduced quantum torpedoes, but it's basically just a bigger, better.
Stick quantum in front of something.
Exactly. Yes.
It's quantum computing, quantum torpedoes,
exactly.
Quantum AI.
It's just
quantum of solace.
I think you went too far.
I went too far.
Rewind. It's one step too far. The
quantum of Mancy.
We'll
get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. So changes do happen. So so given the premise of this guy's statement was that audiences don't like change, all books, all of the things you mentioned, ultimately result in some form of change.
Yes, I would agree.
Like Lord of the Rings, the elves go away. That indeed it is. You could describe like the Lord of the Rings trilogy as the loss of magic, or the stepping away of magic, so that a technological development can happen. It's I was about to say a Cambarian, as in the idea of a massive explosion of life on Earth. That you could say that Lord of the Rings was just on the cusp. That it was talking about a story that happened just before, and then explode. And indeed, if you look at, say, in Star Trek, you look at Enterprise. Enterprise spent a lot of time developing stuff. Went, here's the phase cannons, here's transporters, here's
all the stuff people know from the later
exactly,
shows,
and indeed
later set shows.
Exactly, and indeed, it was a boon of the show. They're going, transporters can only
fan service.
Exactly. Well, in part fan service, and part nostalgia in a weird way, because it's looking forwards, looking back, and all the rest.
It's like, we never knew how those flip communicators that came about. And
yes.
And
here's the development of universal translator, which would have effect on, I think Yoshi was her name, who was the linguist. So you have these small bursts of change.
Enterprise might be more.
Exception?
Yeah, it might be an exception to that rule, because they were probably intending all along to put the stuff that everybody knew about, and again, like you said, the nostalgia, and you're talking about the torpedoes and the phasers and all this stuff. It's in an era specifically set before that, so they could introduce them as the series went along.
Absolutely, and indeed, actually,
so it seems like the development kind of spikes, over the course of the series of Enterprise. It's like, oh, look, all this stuff happened right then in the period that we're going to show you.
Sure,
and then it just flattens out.
Well,
until next generation.
Yes, no. I would say that the thing is, the plot of the first season of Enterprise was the Temporal Cold War, which it died off and then came back in the last few episodes. That was a wonderful idea. It's one of the best ideas in Star Trek for a long time that they never capitalized on, because all the things that they're trying to introduce was out of sequence. So they were interesting things before the normal timeline. So they could have shifted off into another timeline. They could have had the Enterprise, the NX-01, being a time travel. The fact that they had Mr. Quantum Leap in the captain's chair meant like shifting.
Just didn't have Al with him.
But
I have Al with me.
Yes. Hello, how are you doing?
What am I supposed to do, Al? I wish you'd tell me. You never tells me.
Which was Ziggy?
That's why I'm stuck here.
Ziggy was a computer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Ziggy was.
Ziggy was Ziggy was the computer.
And what was
she was the computer?
Yeah. And what was the name of the technician?
Gushy.
Yes, that's it. The last episode of Quantum Leap makes me cry every fucking time I watch it. It's heart wrenching. It's wonderful. Anyway, so they were, as in they had like the inventor of the transporter, and they had all these things coming on, even Red Alert. I remember there was an episode that Reeves was obsessed with. Let's have an action alert or a high threat alert. It's like, okay, let's make it Red Alert or like whatever they said. I can't remember this one, but there was
I wonder if there was a focus group that were sitting around a table for hours trying to figure out what color to call the highest threat level.
Sure. Well, yeah, black, no, blue works.
Blue alert.
Oh, we will have to change the bulb. So there is elements. So there's elements of, and I'm not discounting because the overall or the underlying premise, because there is a lot of staticness.
Yes,
but that's also, unless you're doing time travel, which is again, as I think, unless you're doing time travel, which is a fundamental ripping apart and restitching together of world building, then you need a basis of fact. You need to say so, and you need a comfort in it, saying this is the president, this is the admiral, this is how shields work. And if you look across, say, along the timeline, this is why I wanted the question about Kirk to Picard.
Yeah,
how the shields work changed, because and that was simply because they wanted to do different things differently. Is it a case that the shields are 100% protective of a hull until they collapse, and then you start taking hull damage, or is it that is the shield at 50%? Is that 50% function? Is there now holes in it? Is it Swiss cheese? And is there a 50% chance that the phaser gets blocked or torpedo gets blocked?
Yeah, is it a chance thing or is it
So and indeed,
resistance thing?
And indeed it can also be both.
Yeah, it's whatever suits the story, I guess.
Yes, like I was rewatching yesterday's Enterprise, a wonderful episode of TNG.
Yeah, great episode. Yeah,
where the Enterprise went into fight with 3 Klingons, and it was, and if you were looking from a canonical, or a standard point of view, it wouldn't have made sense to you, because at one point they just use a phaser fires against one and blows a guy up. Another point they fire torpedoes at one and it hits the shields. Is it minor damage? And my thought was always, torpedoes better. Phasers are like you take down the shields and then. So,
well, yesterday's Enterprise still had the same basic level of technology as today's Enterprise. Today's Enterprise,
a few generations on, but
they might have had additional modulations for the shields and things like that, like minor tweaks. But every fan watching it goes, "Oh, shields, photon, or torpedoes, phasers, captain." Your chair, everything is recognizable. It's not, like the comparison that I was making between a battleship captain today and a sail captain, and it's not that long ago.
No, but there's been a quantum leap in a paradigm shift in technology since then.
Yeah.
The difference between, you're still, it would be a better comparison between a World War II captain of a battleship versus a present day captain. The tradition still maintains, and it's only across a handful of years. We're talking about what, 50 years between Picard and Kirk, or more, in the Constellation class and the Galaxy class.
50 years. I thought it was more than that, but I might be. I'm open to correction there by
they were
Bob
around,
or
because Kirk was around for the B. That was at the start of Generations. The C was when they're still wearing the uniforms of the movies in for yesterday's Enterprise, for Enterprise C, and then you go into Enterprise D. So, given that Enterprise C was destroyed, causing the war, and the war wouldn't have went on for that long, then we're only talking about a relatively small time. So, but sorry, that's again, we're diving into
come back up
because. Yeah, you want to establish. I don't know if it's definitely a comfort to the writer.
Sure, yeah.
That once you establish your world, then you get to you're establishing the sandbox for which you can play in.
Yes.
And if you have the comfort of not having to explain how phasers and torpedoes and magic works over and over and over again, then you can hide things in plain sight. Then, like, to use a Star Trek example, when they when they use a torpedo to destroy the cloaked ship that can fire in undiscovered country.
Yes,
everyone knows. It's like, okay, we're going to use a torpedo. I'm going to use it, and it was a great moment because her went, hang on, we've got this. We can put this guy, and then
right up its tailpipe.
Exactly. And then Spock and McCoy go down and go, let's do surgery. So there is a absolute understanding of all the technological bits, and then they put them together. So if you don't have to spend time going, this magic does this or this sci-fi does this, these principles
Every time,
exist, then it makes it absolutely, it's easier for the reader or the viewer to understand.
Yeah, I guess if then conversely, if you're talking about like fantasy worlds, there's I don't know how many epilogues from how many different fantasies where it's like they're describing things happening. Oh, this event happened, and it's not a very good way, I think, to state that I'm not a fan of the thousands of years in the making thing that some authors do, where they start an epilogue, in the distant past. And yet it's like they still have swords and they're still casting magic, and there's still the same, like nothing develops between their epilogue and joining the story day one.
Yeah.
And I can see that as a bit of a problem. If you're writing a fantasy to kind of say that, oh yeah, thousands of years ago, they're still wearing plate armor, and they've developed, they have swords, halberds, whatever weapons they're using are all, the thousands of years that is mentioned in these books is only a couple of hundred years in real life,
or even less than. And those
a few
hundreds of
centuries
years are punctuated by significant events.
Yeah, real world development is sure, there are parts of human history where there are spikes in development, and then it hits a bit of a ceiling for a while, and then it could spike again, depending on the invention of or the ability to create, or electricity, for example. That was a huge, or steam, or like these different eras and ages, like Bronze Age, Iron Age, etc. In real world, the time span isn't as long as some authors try to put into fantasy novels. It's like, because they perhaps want this sense of gravitas, history, lore, ancient civilization. That is exactly the same as I'm going to tell you about now in my story. And I think that can be a problem.
It can, absolutely. That there is you're I guess from a fantasy point of view, you're trying to take what is like the elf lifespan. I think what Rings of Power is a great example of a terrible situation, because you had, say, Galadriel being 2,000 years old at that point in the story, and she's acting like a petulant teen. That you have Gilgalad, who has this storied history behind him, and he's now going, I don't know what I'm doing. It is just an absolute lack of understanding of the expanse of time. Like, even if you just think, I was thinking about this during the week, because I feel like I'm getting old, that I'm only in like late 40s, and you're the same. Thinking about big life things like mortgages and retirement and all this sort of stuff, which will happen relatively soon in the time.
Soon enough,
it's like, I was just thinking about it, that what happened in 2000 and 2001, and now that's 25 years ago.
It's like the age of Gary shall soon pass from this world.
And if it is and not to say that the writers of these works, because we're talking about some absolutely fantastic writers, and some not so much, that are as I said, they're trying to put a degree of gravitas onto these and onto these stories. The time before.
Are they missing the point that gravitas equals gravitas, not history necessarily?
Yes, no, that's a very good point. Yes, that there is they're
substituting in, if something happened a long time ago, then obviously it's a lot more important than it was from a bygone era where people were wiser and
that's the next, etc. That's the next point.
Is completely counterintuitive considering the real world.
Yes, absolutely, and that leads into conspiracy theories of like ancient aliens, and it took the pyramids where they needed some sort of gravimetric system to build the pyramids. No.
Oh, you mean the power plant?
Or yes, or in the power. Oh wow, that was so stupid. The power plant theory.
Who knows? Who knows? It's not a
Yeah,
tomb.
well-
It's definitely not a tomb. But we won't get into this.
As ask the Egyptologists, don't ask the
The most recent thing I heard about the pyramids was those structures that were found underneath it.
that's the power plant one.
Yeah. I mean, but what are they? Who knows?
Well, they used a technology they didn't understand, and the people who produced the images were like, we have no idea what this is. And then someone went, it looks like, and then as soon as someone says it looks like, it's like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, there has been a long-standing theory that the limescale or limestone, the white limestone, was used not just for aesthetics, just because it looked pretty, because it reflected sunlight and it kept the interior cool, etc. There's all these crazy theories about we're not going into the pyramids. Let's move.
You shouldn't call them theories, but let's get slightly back on track away from that, because I enjoy conspiracy theories as much as the next man.
I can get sidelined on this.
Indeed, that all of these stories we're talking about, or a great deal of them, do have in the past it was better motif.
Yeah,
the swords were the things that you're using. The swords are better. Even as as in the technology may be developing towards cannons or towards guns, or the armor maybe kind of alloying maybe better.
Sorry, I just had a funny thought. It is that with, say, comparative between Lord of the Rings and the Rings of Power, it was like everything was better in the past. Well, except the storytelling and the acting, etc.
Yeah.
And the show and the images they put on screen.
Oh wow, yeah. Which indeed, because that's why I don't want to kind of go too negative on this theory, because it is a substantial bedrock from which to build a story upon, and it's a perfectly cromulent way of doing things. This does lead into, as you suggest, what's happening now is. Actually, no, that's the opposite. Because what's happening now is we can take what's there and make it better.
Yeah,
and it's like, no, you can't. It is a rarity that, with respect, you can, with understanding, you can, with accepting the boundaries of which that were set before, you can. But see, you're just gonna make me talk about fanfic again, aren't you?
Nah, I did it.
You actually
there we are. Mark the time, everybody.
Because that's what Rings of Power is. It's really bad fanfic.
Yeah.
But before let's go down my other point, that you have all this, all the ancient weapons and the magics, and it's like I was like recently rewatching Krull. The glaive, like go find the glaive, because that's a wonderful piece of forgotten sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah.
And you have this really nice go find the ancient thing to defeat the teleporting guys with the laser weapons.
Yeah.
And where it's like, is it the Black Castle? Is it a spaceship? Well, kind of is a spaceship, but it's also teleporting around. Why is it teleporting around? Because it's kind of now a sorcerer's castle. And the thing
I'm going to build a trebuchet to attack these jet fighters.
Exactly. Yes. So
I might get lucky.
Yes. It's the looking back, going, everything's great in the past, and today is shit. That, and because the reason why I think about that is that it's also a political statement.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the MAGA shit is, we want things back, where like there was in the 60s, all the things that happened, or all the things that happened in the 50s.
Make America the 50s again.
Yeah.
With all the oppressions and all the everything that we love so well, in inverted commas.
Yeah, it's a. So I can. That's why I don't want to connect these two in a significant way. But the thought did connect the two in a sense that if you're talking from an audience point of view, as that was your initial premise, that the audience finds comfort in it, then they are looking at or they can be looking at it as the past was great, and this is the last gasp of heroism.
Yeah,
that these people are the best, or that, but they are from a bygone age.
Mm-hmm.
These people will never appear again. Like, apparently Peter Thiel, his name, Peter Thiel, J.D. Vance, they are fucking lovers of Lord of the Rings for all the worst reasons.
Yeah.
Like Peter Thiel named his surveillance company Palantir after the Order.
Oh.
So it's like, okay, and it's just odd in that way. So as an underlying premise, absolutely there.
Does that speak to perhaps a wider desire for nostalgia? Because we see a lot like nostalgia sells. We can see, like, you look at, I know you only saw the first season of Stranger Things, but
sure,
a massive part of the appeal for a lot of the viewers was the 80s, the time it was set. Seeing, arcades and all the things of the 80s that people either recalled themselves living or being a child through that era, if they're kind of around our age.
Yeah.
Or just it's like, well, a lot of these shows, that 70s show.
Sure.
It was made in the 90s about the 70s. Happy Days, made in the 70s about the 50s.
Sure. That's the 20-year gap, 20-year cycle, isn't it? So as in, we're always looking back 20 years before.
Yeah.
Like what English Queer Folk was looking back 10 years, 20 years before. There's always...
Is there just an innate thing in people that they love the past? Because was it in Baz Luhrmann's Sunscreen? It's like nostalgia is a way of withdrawing the past from the garbage disposal, wiping off all the dirt and grime.
Yeah.
And enjoying it in this new...
Sure. Definitely a rose-tinted impression of what went before, yeah.
Yeah. Because we're forgetting all the lack of technology, or we're forgetting how convenient things are.
Yes, yeah. That's like, I think I mentioned actually on this podcast before. I think it was because I now remember it was Jimmy Carr who mentioned that the statement that 50 years ago, showers weren't a thing, or weren't as prevalent. That Einstein didn't shower regularly. It was a case, as in, we all now shower every day. One would hope that you shower every day.
Sure,
perhaps more. But depending, but there is, and that's a technology. That's an advancement. That is a convenience that has become normalized for us. And I'm just struck by the thought. Yes, we're talking about showering on a sci-fi fantasy podcast.
Yeah, well, yes.
So, but the thing
through the lens of nostalgia,
exactly. Yeah, and because this, and I'm going to go a small, hopefully a very short tangent. That this sort of thing, every aspect of the world can be pulled into our storytelling. So talking about the showering or not showering, that becomes okay. Well, then it becomes about medicine. It becomes about cleanliness. It becomes about what is like the thinking about it, you're describing a hallway from 50 years ago.
Yeah.
A good descriptor is how it was scrubbed by Lysol or by harsh cleaning products that sting the eyes.
Yeah.
These days, those cleaning products still exist, but they are... Lysol wasn't the thing. I got that wrong. That's not something else. But Dettol, I was going for. Sorry. That there is but these days you can use that to distinguish between two generations or two times. So,
even people today don't they don't know the whole needing to remember phone numbers.
Yes,
that's it.
Yes.
And like, again, you see these, just again diving deeper into the nostalgia. There's so many of these little shorts and reels and stuff on social media where there's parents showing their kids a rotary phone,
right?
And dozens and hundreds and thousands of views on these type of things where it's the kid doesn't know what a cassette is.
Sure.
And that's for people like us that have lived through this era of significant change. We'll call it. I would say every era is an era of significant change.
I wouldn't, but that's another story.
We don't know because we weren't living through.
No, but it's no, actually, no, you're absolutely right. In that, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that the 90s and noughties were because of certain structural changes, i.e. the internet, that there was because there was a change in how information was being passed around. That was a fundamental part of world building happened.
Yes.
Just as you say, electricity. There's moments where there is that a single development spawns a whole bunch more. As in, all the technology that requires electricity couldn't exist before electricity. All the things that have benefited from the internet couldn't have existed or didn't exist. Like the idea of just writing. And to bring it back to the purpose of this podcast, that's being meta, is I was thinking about this the other day, that I don't know if I could have been, I know I wouldn't be as prolific as I am, as in writing, as in words on page, if I had to use a typewriter.
Yeah, we did cover that little point before.
Because I'm reading J. Michael Straczynski's autobiography at the moment, and he's going through how he's just hammered away on a typewriter. I'm thinking, I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah.
So it's there's respect to the older writers who actually had the dedication to actually sit down and error-free have, as you say, remembering phone numbers, having the full plot.
Yeah. Or even certain writers that had to write during the day or by candlelight.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
If you go back far enough.
Yeah,
the strain that must have been just as physically on their eyes.
Oh yeah,
to write if it got dark. They're like,
that they're spending money on candles in order to write Into the Night. Yeah, this is why I would say that every generation wouldn't have the same burst. Like, I think we have now entered another a lull generation, because there was this burst of stuff from the internet, and now we're going into, like, look at all the failures of technology and failures of companies that happened a little while, whether it be Juicero or what was that one that your one did, the blood testing one, or just anything that, like, Elon Musk touches, is just, they're just boondoggles. They're based on a fiction. They're based on this fallacy of the tech daddy or something like that they've done in the past. Well, clearly he has money, thus he must be smart.
I have a question. So I don't know if it's something you've noticed, but say if we take a story that's, seeing how we're discussing like nostalgia and discussing 20-year gaps, or even longer, when it comes to storytelling and writing a story that is either set in the real world historically. Actually, we'll keep with the real world historically.
Okay.
So have you noticed, because I have, that when a story is set in the 20s, 30s, 40s, that someone has figured out something from today.
Sure.
In order to solve a problem.
Yes.
It's like they just happen to be so insightful or so clever that they are the outlier and figure out something that we take for granted today.
Sure.
In order to solve their problems. Have you noticed that?
Sure. The entire basis of *Halt and Catch Fire*, that TV show, was them essentially building, like, not multi, as in MMOs. They were building games that were actively hosted on servers. That it was, so they were having developments that were actually far, far beyond them.
Yeah.
And indeed, that is.
Is that a lazy trick of a writer to go, oh, here's the one person that can figure this out, because or even hundreds of years ago, there's that one doctor that knows about germ theory, where no other doctors in the world does, and this isn't.
Okay, no, that's
kind of thing.
That's another excellent point, because you have the what was it, Quinn Medicine Woman?
Yeah, okay.
Who did that? Who's that sort of? She had. Even if she didn't have stuff from far future, she had stuff from some place on the other side of the planet. Even it was like someone who had read, in 1800 they figured out the germ theory. Like, actually, I can't remember which one, what I was, but then this person who was in the back end of the Western versus what was development was happening in Europe. Oh, we found it out. It was discovered last week.
Just that good.
Yeah, or that newspapers transfer that information across the world. Right? It's like, no, it wouldn't have happened. Information didn't travel that quickly back then. Again, internet. So, but there is a granting, because you can't have a independent idea that simply, like, there was in ancient Egypt, there was people burning holes in people's skulls to relieve pressure on the brain, whether it be hematomas or whatever it was that. But this wasn't widespread because it wasn't fully understood. They didn't have that technology, so they had the idea, but it wasn't fully manifested.
But you never have the main character being someone who just goes along with the established historical reality of this is what you were taught in.
Yes, yeah.
Like, a doctor character a couple of 100 years ago was like, or even in medieval times, was like, no, they're not going to drill someone's head, because an audience would go, why are they being stupid? Or why
Exactly.
don't they know?
Yeah.
They want to apply today's even beliefs, value systems,
Sure.
knowledge, experience, and just transfer it to this character in the past. If we're talking about like time travel type stories,
Yeah.
they always happen to be the
Information travels back. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but the main character always happens to be just that crazy person that just does the thing different than everybody else.
Yeah, and so because you verge into values, because you like you can have the cop who values forensics.
Yeah,
who no one else.
Ichabod Crane.
Exactly.
In Sleepy Hollow.
Exactly. The exact one I was thinking about.
Yeah.
That Jinx. That there is that everyone else is going. It's found in the river. It's drowning. It's like there's no water in the lungs. So, of course, he is able to make these statements, but without so the audience understands that he's right, and everyone else is backward in comparison.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that's lazy. I would say that that's a good way of relaying the information. When you come to values, that's an entirely different conversation, because say whether it be the doctor, the politician, the cop treating a black man fairly in the year, whether it be because say Mel Gibson in The Patriot, he treated all people equally.
Yeah,
despite the fact that
he's a landowner.
Yeah, and had slaves, and it's too easy to say that every hero, as in most of the founding fathers, were slave owners.
Yeah,
it's
washed over though.
Exactly that, but
to tell the story
in that when a cultural shift happens, whether it be as in modern times gay marriage or kind of trans rights, that we believe the first blush of African American rights in the States, that it would take some time, and indeed, if you look at history, it did take several years for that to fully happen. It wasn't that everyone went, oh, of course, I've had slaves for all my life, and now it's like, and my father had slaves, and they were handed down to me as my inheritance. Of course, it was a bad thing to do, and of course, I'll let them free.
Yeah,
rather than going,
I'd be bankrupt if
exactly
my whole family would be out on the street, and we'd have no food, and we would probably all die of dysentery.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Let's say.
Yeah, but so there would be economic concerns. It would be that society, while kind of looking back in society, because again, looking at numbers.
Yeah,
because whether it be it took say 15 years, 20 years for Emancipation Proclamation to actually come into force. 20 years is a massive time.
Mm-hmm. A lot happened.
Yeah, I think
we think about where we were even 20 years ago.
Exactly, that 20 years ago, we're completely different people.
Yeah.
So it's that, and there's generations of people who would still be born, would inside that horrible situation. But one thing I will say, just end, I guess to bring this part to the close, is did you ever see Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead?
I'm aware of it. I haven't seen it.
There's, I would highly recommend
the two characters from Hamlet that are in the background.
Yes.
Just to clarify, if no one else knows.
Oh yes, they're the clown characters. They are the ones that essentially were used for a number of things. The clown characters were often used so they could do set dressing, so they could basically set these two up in front, have some funny dialogue while they're changing the sets. But Shakespeare used them very well, and it was Tom Stoppard who wrote took the final line, and the movie has Gary Oldman and Tim Roth as the two characters who they keep asking other people to name them, because if memory serves, and someone probably can correct me on it in the comments, that some folios had Rosencrantz lines for Guildenstern and Guildenstern lines as Rosencrantz, so they never knew their own names.
Okay,
they knew they were combined, that one of them was Rosencrantz and one of them was Guildenstern. But it's a lovely play. It's a lovely play and a lovely movie. There's a few moments in it where Gary Oldman's character, who is, both of them are basically stupid, but Tim Roth's character thinks he's smarter than the other. But a
lot of stupid people do think they're smarter.
Very much so. But it's like they're both stupid. They're both stupid. Yeah. But one of them thinks he's smarter.
He's smarter.
He's smarter than the other. Okay. And multiple times across the movie, Gary Oldman's character figures out a few different principles. Like he figures out Archimedes' principle in a bath. He sinks down, the water goes up, and he's like, "Oh, that's
Wait
great."
a minute.
Or the one that you probably can find on YouTube is, that I think it's conservation of momentum. When the business toy where you have the 5 balls hung from a rack, where you drop one ball,
perpetual motion,
and then that's not perpetual motion. No. It's perpetual motion. It's something different, but it's you drop one ball and one ball goes.
Yeah.
You drop 2 balls and 2 balls go. He basically did one ball, or basically pots and the dink, and he drops 2 and dink, and then he calls over and goes, "Watch this," and he drops 3, and there's bump, and the fourth one explodes and drops. But he was figuring it out.
Yeah,
it was just this wonderful moment of, we understand as a modern audience what he's doing.
Yeah,
but he doesn't have the wherewithal to fully encapsulate it. So
I guess, and again, we'll probably be wrapping this up a little bit in a few moments, maybe about 10. The point I kind of wanted to make in relation to what we've been discussing.
Yeah, our original question, sure.
Yeah, well, insofar as modern audience.
Yeah.
Does a modern audience require the character to have a modern sensibility, a modern value system, a modern or a real world, even if we're talking sci-fi and fantasy, to have a real world modern day value system in order to relate and connect to a character? So you could have historical fiction with like ultra realistic for the period of time, but would a modern audience engage with that cop? We were saying that
Sure.
The cop in the 50s in New York that isn't treating everybody equally.
Yeah.
Because is it too much to like even explain that particular cop's upbringing, background, how they are, who they are? And would a modern audience relate to that? Would they be kind of in the corner of an individual who didn't share kind of a modern world sensibility or open-mindedness, or even if things were illegal that aren't illegal now, but say if they came across, like even in the 50s, I think homosexuality was illegal.
Sure. Yeah.
Say we'll talk about America, but it was illegal
in the UK and Europe.
UK as well. So say a Bobby, 1950s.
Yeah.
Like Alan Turing.
Yeah, good example.
Is a good example. So if it was a cop investigating Alan Turing,
yeah,
who is this renowned hero of World War II,
he was never known.
Well, later on he was renowned.
Yes, he was posthumously.
But a modern audience knows this. So are they? They're never going to be on the side of the cop that's investigating this guy or putting this guy in jail for homosexuality.
Yeah.
So you can't necessarily, if you're doing historical or time travel, have a realistic, like properly authentic of their period of time characters that a modern audience will follow. Or
that's a slightly bigger question.
Sure. Maybe it's something we'll get into in the next episode.
Yeah. My take on it would be that there is an audience which demands to see themselves in the work.
Yeah.
And I think that is toxic. And to use a modern term, I think that is and by seeing themselves, I will be specific in, they need to see their face, their type, their background, their ideology, all of them that makes up who they are. They want to see that reflected in the work.
Yeah.
And this is, I think that it is a terrible thing, because whoever you are, if you limit yourself to only connecting with protagonists who match your type, then there is a whole host of things of stories out there that you will never experience, because when you pick it up and say,
but it's a choice, they'll just choose not to.
Yes, and if they want to make those, but it is, how can you then say this is the best book? You can say it's your favorite book, or how does it say this is the best movie, or this is a best thing, this is the greatest thing? It's like, you're not reading, or you're not experiencing. I think you can't experience everything, but if your criteria is, I want to be siloed into this very specific type of writing, and indeed, or storytelling, it's just you're setting yourself a limitation that you shouldn't need to. It's when I hear people talk about Miles Morales Spider-Man as an example. No, there's only one Spider-Man. No, that's absolutely wrong. There's in fact a lot of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That's like saying there's only one Batman. There is a whole history of Batmen.
Yeah.
And all the history of Robins, who sometimes became Batman, or some went off became Nightwing or Red Mask, or all those. There is a legacy there. But if you are either, and I'll put it on both sides. Both sides, I think, are not. I guess I'll say equally toxic. Whether you are the white guy who the white guy, the white cis guy who can only see Peter Parker as Spider-Man, and can only see that, and as soon as if the mask is pulled off and it's anything other than Spider-Man or Spider-Gwen, they're having
send the shutters. I'm out.
Yeah. But I'd also say the exact same for the person who goes, I will only see Miles Morales, or I'll only see Spider-Gwen, or I will only see this person if they reflect who I am. And both of them are missing out on a whole wealth of storytelling.
Absolutely.
From the other side.
Yeah. But that's what I was exactly kind of what I was saying, or trying to say. Is that where this idea of the comfort from science fiction, fantasy, is that not necessarily, people seeing themselves, although that is part of it, I think. But is it a case of the long periods of time of no change? Is this people that do people ultimately fear change in the world, and they don't like seeing things change, and they like the comfort of stagnation in their storytelling? Or if like that, like I said, an author doing a ultra well researched, ultra realistic version of a character from a bygone era, is that someone probably couldn't relate to, like the things the Romans did, for example, and that we would say are absolutely morally reprehensible.
Yes,
but it's just a Tuesday in ancient Rome.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if you were to do,
women were just chattel to be sold.
For example,
that's half the population right there.
If you had a character who was a Roman citizen, buying and selling slaves, and was also supposed to be the hero of the story, I think that it would cause some sort of dissonance. We're kind of in an era of dissonance at the moment.
This is true. Yeah.
But so, what does the author who wants to be authentic do if they also want to appeal to an audience? And I think we'll get into who we're writing for, perhaps.
Yes.
I think we'll do that on the next episode.
Sure.
But maybe we'll just we'll pose that question, or do you have a response to that question, or will we just let it hang?
Well, my initial response was the writer who wants to be as authentic as possible, but also wants to sell or wants to get an audience, hides. They hide their intentions inside other characters.
Yeah. All right.
Until next time,
this has been Fictional Problems. Thanks very much for listening, everybody. Every single person.
Yes, all four of you.
All the single person.
Yes.
Actually, I'll give a shout out to Silke as well. While I'm going.
Who's what?
Just a shout out to Silke, one of our listeners.
All right. Hello,
Silke. Okay, we're gonna end it right there, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.